Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might dirty wine up.
This is a special podcast episode taken from my summit that I ran last year, Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. Do enjoy. Welcome back to the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. I believe that a part of healthy aging and reversing the effects of aging is having healthy eyes. Nobody wants to lose their eyesight as they age. And for someone like me who started wearing glasses in middle school, eye health is very important. I'd like to introduce you to our guest in today's, in this episode, this interview is Barry Auchettl. Barry is known as the Blockbuster, is a life visionary from Australia who helps people see the world with new eyes by improving both their physical eyesight and their insight as to what's possible for themselves and others. Barry is the founder of the visionschool.org that changes the way people see life. He helps others shine their light by unlocking their full potential. He's also the creator of Conversations, an inspirational game that encourages more meaningful conversations and connections, and is the producer of the movie Vision 2020, From Eyesight to Insight. He has 6 grandchildren. You wouldn't think that by looking at him. And his vision is dedicated to creating a better world for them to grow up in. Barry, welcome to the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit.
Oh, look, thanks, Deepak. I'm really excited about here and about letting people know that it's possible to do something about their own physical eyesight.
Absolutely. I want to improve mine. And so just as a preface, so the time of this recording this interview, I met Barry like less than a week ago. And I got to know him a little bit, got to hear him speak. And I'm like, you need to be on my summit. So this is a total last minute extra, bonus interview we're throwing in for everyone as part of the summit. So Barry, I'd love for you to just start with like maybe a bit of your backstory and how you got to, working with people with vision.
Look, thanks, Deepak. Look, I started off really as a school teacher. That's where I was. And at 32 years of age, I took my son to an optometrist because my son was complaining of eyesight issues. And at that stage, I was actually got into a pair of what I call Coke bottle glasses, those really thick pair for seeing both in the distance and close up. And the optometrist suggested eye exercises for my son, and I laughed at him. I said, come on, that doesn't work. And he said, what about you? And I said, it's too late for me, like save the boy almost. Like I was 32, I was thinking I was too old to even think about this. But something must have clicked inside me, like the curiosity. By the time I got home, I started wondering, is it possible? And part of that was, again, because the optometrist said, we all get glasses. And every time I got glasses, I went back and they feel too strong. And I'd say, these feel too strong. And the response was, oh, you'll get used to it. In other words, your eyes will deteriorate sufficiently to match the new lens. They didn't actually say that part of it, but that's what they said.
Interesting.
And they said, what do you expect for someone in their mid-40s? And as I said, I was 32. So I thought, what's going to happen when I'm 45, 55, 65? And so I wanted to know, was it possible, first of all, to stop the deterioration of my eyesight? Like that was the first stage. What actually happened was within 2 months, I got out of reading glasses completely. I've never worn glasses for reading since.
2 months. That's unbelievable.
Within 4 months later, I passed a driver's license with 20/20 vision. And so I've been helping people ever since of how can they look after their own eyesight. We look after our teeth. We clean our teeth every day. Like if I said to people, make sure you clean your teeth every day, twice a day, we'd all just accept that as a given. Why don't we give a few minutes each day to look after our eyes that actually do so much more for us?
Yeah, Barry, you make a good point here. So two things. So first of all, I'm all about habit stacking, right? Like one simple thing I tell all my clients work on your balance, like stand on one leg while you're brushing your teeth. And that's made me think of that. It's like, why are we not doing, and you're going to talk about that a little bit later. And I want you to share with the audience, some simple eye exercises. And, again, just for everyone, I met Barry less than a week ago. I've been doing a very simple eye exercise that he taught in his speech that I saw every day since. So, I'm about a week in. So I can't say massive improvements yet, but I'm really looking forward to maybe one day getting out of glasses. But and then the second thing, Bray, just look, why are it sounds like you're a very progressive optometrist. A number of years ago, it's like to do eye exercises for your son. No one ever told me that. No one ever told me to do eye exercise, and I've seen multiple eye doctors, over the years. So why is that? Why do you think?
Well, look, we could be cynical and say this is a multi-billion-dollar industry of sending glasses out. We've got 95% of people over 50 are now wearing glasses. These incredible numbers are coming out. And, at the moment, there's a lot of money to be made in this process. Like, there's a lot of money. And recognizing that it's a medical model, that's what they're used to. If there's something wrong with your eyes, we give glasses. That's where we've got to. Now, if you broke your leg or if you sprained your leg, and I said, look, I think you should wear these crutches for your leg to support you probably the rest of your life, you'd probably get a second opinion. And yet we've been giving these spectacles as if, this is something that we're meant to do now for the rest of our lives. And even to the extent that they become a fashion process now, we make them fashionable, we make them acceptable. And so people think that it pertains to a certain image. The reality is it actually stops us not only from seeing how we see, but it also stops us from connecting to each other the way we're meant to.
Good point. Very, very good point. So you kind of gave us a bit of your backstory and how I got there. So, how do you get involved with eyesight and vision?
Look, I got involved, as I said, initially through myself. And then I just had a whole lot of people when I wasn't wearing glasses say, how did you do that? And I started running smaller and smaller groups. By 1997, which is going back a fair while now, I actually left work and created a business called iPower, which was directly about improving people's eyesight and was running classes, teaching people how to do things and that sort of stuff. What happened over the years is, as successful as that was, and there are other vision educators out there around the world as well, the success that I had is when I took it to the next step level. And I started recognizing a lot of eyesight issues occurred almost because of emotional stuff going on or trauma that people literally did not want to see. And as a result of that, their eyesight deteriorated to the extent that they either needed glasses or needed stronger glasses.
Interesting. Would it be fair to say then, and I don't know if there's any studies to back this one, but the greater the perceived trauma by the person who's experiencing is what I mean, is perceived,
Sure.
the greater potentially the deterioration or the faster the deterioration?
Yeah, look, there are enough studies out there in terms of numbers and what's happening with eyesight. In terms of the trauma is trauma that could happen every day. So for some people, it's the separation in a relationship. It could be a death of a grandparent. That's an obvious one that comes up quite often. But for some people, it could be what we call a minor, stress, such as changing schools, and that was really difficult, or seeing your parents not really communicating properly. So it's such a unique thing for different people and how we respond. For some people, it's like, I lose my hearing, I don't want to hear it. For some people, it's an internal thing and they might have heart problems or chest problems and lung problems and all sorts of things. For a lot of people, though, it's about how we see. It's about what's stopping us from looking into each other's eyes and connecting at that level. And I believe there's such a bigger component about this disconnection that we have at the moment on the planet and the use of wearing some sort of lens as a way of separating each other.
So just to recap for everyone, so some people, because they literally physiologically don't want to see the issues or trauma or stressors around them, for some people it manifests in actually literally their eyesight shutting down.
I just want to add to that, and we can actually do like a little process I want everyone to do now who's listening, and you may want to do it yourself. What I always do is say, go back to the moment that you got your pair of glasses. Like it might be at 18, it might be at 40, 45, whatever it is. Now go back further 1 to 2 years prior to that and what was happening in your life. So for most people, it's 1 or 2 years prior to actually getting the glasses where the trauma or the stress occurred. And I haven't had a person yet that's gone, oh, that's when ... And so it's such a big point that people don't actually realize until they look at it what was actually happening that caused them to get glasses in the first place.
That's very interesting. And I would almost implore everyone, pause the recording, take Barry's advice, and give it a think for a minute. I'll have to do that offline. I'm not going to bore everyone here with that. But I know when I got my glasses in junior high, as I mentioned earlier, I'd have to think back a bit. But that's a very interesting reflection point. So yeah, I encourage everyone to pause the recording now or after the interview's over to maybe do that for yourself. So you might have already answered this in your last answer, but like what do you see as the difference between eyesight and vision?
Look, that's a really great question. And, eyesight, as I said, is where I started. I wanted to get out of glasses. In actual fact, my initial goal was I wanted to stop my eyesight deteriorating. And I had no perception at this stage, at that point, that it was possible. Now, eyesight to me is very much about looking at a chart, although I never actually use charts when I help people with eyesight because our physical vision is more than reading a number or a letter on a chart. It's about how much peripheral vision, how much color we're taking in, how much depth we can have. So there's a lot more to vision than just that. And as a vision educator, I'm really about educating the whole breadth of how we physically see. Vision, on the other hand, takes that vision or takes the eyesight to the next level. And it really looks at this area of insight. And so to me, this is looking at someone's vision of life, of what are they doing with their life? Are they really living the life that they really wanted to live from day one? Because I believe we've all had a calling of some degree, and I call it a calling because I think it is something innate within us, to live a life of our highest value, whatever that is. That could be, I really want to be a butcher and I want to be the best butcher I can be, whatever that is for each individual person. But living that vision, living that bigger vision of life, to me brings fulfillment, it brings a sense of purpose, and it brings more of a meaning about what we're here for in the first place.
Barry, you brought up something for me. I'm just curious here. Totally went off, didn't think this was going to come up, but if say someone is living their vision, their higher mission, their purpose, and maybe whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. And sure. And they're making strides, and from the outside looking in, they're like, yes, this person is doing that. But if they have some internal strife for themselves, something they're like, hiding, or they don't want the world to know, not that they're putting a facade on their outwardly mission, but maybe there's something incongruent with them. I'm going to assume, again, that's going to manifest itself in a multitude of ways. It could be developing cancer or some other ailment, sure. But I would imagine also eyesight could be one, just like we already discussed. Is there any literature to that, or have you seen that anecdotally at least?
Look, there is literature. There's plenty of books out there now specifically looking at this area. There's a wonderful book by Jacob Lieberman called Take Off Your Glasses and See. And he comes from an optometrist viewpoint that actually recognised that these weren't actually achieving that. So there's enough information out there, supporting this now that what's actually going on. One of the interesting ones that I had as a story is I had a man who was actually a Zen monk, and he came and saw me and wanted to work with his eyesight. And when I was muscle testing, I actually used muscle testing just to find out everything. I love finding out details and what's actually going on. And I was muscle testing him, and the one thing that came up was he wasn't meditating properly. And I remember being really scared to tell him because I'm like, who am I telling this Zen monk that you're not meditating?
Sure, right? Yeah.
It's like, I know, right? And so I sort of got really courageous at one point. I said, look, I'm just going to tell you what came up, don't shoot the messenger. And I told him about this, and he said, Barry, you're right. I've been meditating the same way for 40 years, and I've got stale. I need a new way of doing it. And once he actually resolved that, his eyesight actually shifted.
Mm.
It was incredible. And the other story was a 72-year-old. We're talking about decreasing aging, and people might be in their 60s and 70s are listening to this and
Oh,
thinking,
absolutely. We're going to have a full
it's too
range of
late.
audience members. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a guy who was 72 came and saw me, worn glasses ever since he learnt to drive back, as a teenager. And he'd been doing eye exercises and trying to sort of do the exercises really rigidly with no success. And what I suggested to him is he actually stopped trying to do them and just have fun doing them. 2 weeks later, he passed a driver's license and was able to drive without glasses.
Oh.
And he simply changed. Not only did he change his physical eyesight, but he changed this really strong, almost aggressive approach to life that he had. And he just softened that. So I want to encourage people that this is not about doing the exercises, or this is not about like having to do them. This is about using those exercises as a way of relaxation for ourselves, and in the process, our eyesight starts to improve.
Got it. Let's take our conversation a little bit different direction here. So, what role does vibration and frequency play in vision?
Yeah. Part of this journey, as you can imagine with me, is developing. I've gone from eyesight and then I've started looking at vision of life. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I started looking at what's next, what's the next level. And I literally packed up everything at one point and traveled the world for 5 months. It was just an amazing experience. And what happened in these 5 months is I started meeting people. And these aren't famous people, but these were people who had dedicated their life looking at this area called vibration, shifting vibration, shifting frequency. And I came home and I recognized that there was a difference between vibration and frequency. And so I started redefining for myself what the two terms mean. And they certainly relate, they're closely related to the idea of eyesight and vision. So frequency to me is the outside world of how we see, if you like, but it's also about how we attract relationships, how we attract money, how we, interact with each other. And this frequency works on a scale like this. Sometimes we can be really connected, sometimes we're not connected. And there was nothing out there, so I actually had to create this scale, which I simply made a 0 to 100 and started testing, looking at how we relate to the world. The other side to this, I also then looked at vibration, and vibration is that internal world. And I looked around because I don't like creating something that's already out there. So David Hawkins had a scale from 0 to 1,000. And I used that as a way of determining what is our connection to our higher self, to spirit, whatever you want to call it. And together, if we can get that balance between raising our vibration, our internal work, and our frequency, then our life starts to change. And I found that in terms of the eyesight work, as we raise our frequency, our eyesight physically improves. As we raise our vibration, who we are internally, our inside, also improves.
Yeah, I love this, and I think the key takeaway, and many of the other speakers are in their own way, saying the same sentiment, is that we need to be in balance, emotionally, physically, everything. And again, we have speakers on all sorts of topics, and again, I think that every piece of this puzzle plays a part in helping keeping us young and even reversing the effects of age. And so I love that coming from the eye health point of view, but it's big. It's just bigger than eye health. It's our whole person
Yes.
health. Again, the vibration frequency, as you mentioned. So I think it's a great point, Barry. Like, what can we do? And I know, like, I teased earlier, I've been doing the simple basic exercise, for the last week since we first met. But what can we do right now to start supporting our eyes and our vision?
Well, I think the first thing is to become aware of it. Like, I actually ended up about 10 years ago, shifted from iPower as the business to thevisionschool.org. Like that's where I moved to. And the purpose of that is to bring awareness to people that they can do something themselves. Like that's the first thing, to know that it's possible to do something, because all the information is, if your eyesight starts to deteriorate, here's a pair of glasses. And there are alternatives out there. And the simple one is, we made a movie called Vision 2020 From Eyesight to Insight. And that's available at vision2020movie.com for $2 to go and rent. So people can go and do that and have a look at it for themselves. And what's really amazing is, during the premiere in New York last year, people who watched the movie actually had an improvement in their eyesight watching the movie. Most time watching TV is probably going to deteriorate your eyesight to some extent.
Yeah.
This actually, our intent was that people would watch this and say, my eyesight's better at the end than what it is at the start of the movie, as well as entertaining people. So that's just really an exciting process that's there. So the first of all is become aware. Secondly, there are some exercises that people can do. And I actually did a Masters of Education focusing on computers and eyesight. And part of that is I separated what I called active eye exercises, which is predominantly what optometrists would give people, like look at the string and looking up and down, which I found that after 2 or 3 days, most people didn't do anymore. So the problem with the exercises themselves is not the exercise, is that they were literally just too boring for people to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And therefore they don't, with all the good intent.
People are not going to make a habit change if it's boring. I know this
No.
from the work I do as well, right?
Whereas if I can give exercises, and particularly in what I call the passive eye exercises, it relaxes the eyes, it relaxes the body, and it's an easy process, as you say, that we can integrate into our lives and make us a habit. And we've literally had people that did an eye exercise every time she went to the bathroom, and 12 months later, she was out of glasses.
That's a good one. I need to. I'm gonna steal that one.
And
I drink a lot of water. I go to the bathroom a
men
lot.
can only do it half as often as the women, because they're going to have their eyes closed. So recognizing that there are steps that we can do, and if we look at it, literally a few minutes each day will make a difference. And I have programs which are like 2 minutes a day. I've got programs for 10 minutes a day. I've got programs where people want to dive in and look at what's the underlying causes to eyesight issues. What is it that we're not looking at?
Yeah.
And people can dive in at whatever level they feel comfortable with.
Barry, could you share with the audience the simple exercise that I've been doing that you shared with me at this event we were at last week?
Okay. I want to share 2 of them with you, and I work on the basis that the more exercises I give people, the less likely they are to do them. So I'm just going to give 2, and these are my top 2 favorites that I do every day. And the first one is called palming. And this is the one that you got to learn. And the way to do that is you're rubbing your hands, and what you're doing is you're just creating some warmth. And I'll do it twice. I'll do it to show people, and then I'll do it again so that people can do it themselves with me. So we're going to rub our hands, and then when I tell you to, you're going to cup your hands like you've got 2 eggs in each hand. And you place them over your closed eyes so that the palm of your hand is simply behind your closed eyes. And you just relax. And sometimes it helps to have a pillow underneath you, or you could rest it on a desk. And then after about 1 or 2 minutes, just drop your hands with your 2 fingers as if you're doing a peace sign. Just touch the corners of each eye, drop your hands, and then open your eyes. It's that simple. All right. So let's all do that together.
Yeah, let's all do it together, and then I have some questions on that.
Okay. So if you like, my suggestion is you take your glasses off while you're doing this. We're going to rub our hands. We're going to cup them so that we've got our hands over, and we're just breathing. And while you're doing that, I just want you to notice, are your hands warm, cold, or tingly? There's no right or wrong answer. And I want you to notice How are you feeling at the moment? And this is a really great exercise just to relax yourself for a minute or so, especially if you're sitting on the computer, you're watching TV, you could do this during the ads. And just notice what you see. You might see black, you might see some colors. It doesn't matter. It's just observing and becoming aware. And now what I want you to do is drop your hands, do that sort of peace sign on each eye, touch the corners, and then drop your hands totally. And then very gently just open your eyes and have a look around. Deepak, what do you notice?
Every time I do this properly, and I'm going to say properly because I think I got some bad habits already in the week that I have to reiterate. I find an immediate improvement. Like just yeah, it's again, just for the audience, I was at this event and Barry demonstrated this, and I actually grabbed the mic. I was like, holy. I used a different slang word, but I said, holy crow, there's I can totally see an improvement. So I noticed an improvement. I'm just really a couple of questions I had because I think people have this question. So one thing is I think I wasn't probably holding the cupping long enough. I think that's one thing where I've maybe slipped a bit. So is it really important to have like at least a minute or two where you're
No,
holding
it's
it?
not actually. I think it's like how long is a piece of string? So sometimes, I could do it if I have a 30-second break and I can do it for 30 seconds. Sometimes I will do it for 10 minutes while I'm meditating as part of my meditation practices. I would have some pillows and I would be doing that while I'm meditating. And that's really nice. It actually helps me to get into a deeper meditative state.
That's interesting. I'm going to try that one. So probably at least 30 seconds.
I would say at least 30 seconds. It's a great one to do for, a 2-minute approach. It would be an ideal number if I was looking at doing one a day. You may decide that your mind starts to get too busy and you might want to do 2 1 minutes to start with, one in the morning, one at the evening.
Yeah. So to the audience, I'd say
The absolutely key to it is to do it.
Like anything, right?
Like anything. Like
The best
I'd
time to
rather people
exercise
do
is when
10
you're going to do
seconds
it.
every day than do 1 hour once a week or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the consistency is what makes the change. A bit like cleaning our teeth. We can give our teeth a really good clean, but if we don't clean them for another week until, we're not going to get much benefit from it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like many things in life. And then my second question was, does the warmth of your hands make a difference? Because, and I'll tell you why, the last couple of days where I live, it's been cold, I'll say, and I take the dog out for a walk, my hands get cold. I come in and then I'm like, I need a break and I'm going to try this. And my hands are still cold. It doesn't matter how long I'm writing them. I can't warm up my fingertips. And I feel like, I don't know if that worked as well. So does that actually make a difference?
Again, great question. The quick answer, it doesn't matter. In actual fact, you could go and do palming without warming your hands. I just find for me when I do that, it actually creates an energy and it actually helps it, I can feel what's going on more. But certainly if your hands are cold or you've only got 30 seconds, I would spend the 30 seconds doing that and maybe just, not even worry about rubbing your hands if you really don't want to. It's just part of my habit is doing that because in a way, if you look at yoga and a lot of other modalities, we're actually using that process as an energy process, an energy system. Reiki would use it, yoga would use it. And, they all use this way of transmuting energy into our eyes because our eyes technically are part of our brain.
Yes.
So we're getting direct access to shift something within us.
And then Barry, so that was the first exercise. You said there was a second one you wanted to share?
Okay, the second exercise, and it fits in, if you think about hot-cold therapy, so this is like light-dark therapy. So the dark is the palming, the light is referred to as sunning. So if you can imagine that my hand, in front of me is the sun, and I'm sitting there outside looking at the sun, I don't want people to go up and start staring at the sun. This is not going to be really useful for your eyes, certainly without years of practice. So what I suggest is you turn away from the sun, close your eyes, and then just almost like a Tai Chi action, Just allow that sunlight to start filtering through your eyes. And again, do that for 1 or 2 minutes, and then look away and then open your eyes. And I know from experience, people will find, and this is not written anywhere in any books, that colours stand out more. And it's one of the ways of getting an instant improvement, a bit like when we did the palming in the group the other day. The sunning will give you an instant feedback that there's a change. And my recommendation for people is if you could do palming and sunning, and you can do it together, it's called a sunning sandwich, where you do palming, sunning, and then back to palming again. And that would be the ideal, I would recommend.
Sunning sandwich. I like that. So, and for to each their own, but I don't eat grains, so I don't eat bread. So that's a good sandwich for me. So, Barry, I have a question though. So is it the different light frequencies from the sun that is making the difference? And here's where I'm going with my question. Some people, are going to be in northern climates where, as we're heading into the winter, there's going to be less time that the sun is actually out. We're going to have longer evenings, shorter days. Can this be replicated with people have some certain type of lamps that provide all the, near infrared, far infrared, etc.? I have a sauna that gives me all those type of things. Could I do this? Could I mimic this, or you really need like the sun?
Look, I actually do have one of those colour lamps that used to do, different colour lights on. And then, when aeroplanes started weighing every piece of my luggage, I had to be careful what I took. I started living at home and recognising the sun's got every colour we need. And there's a lot, particularly in India, the use of colour light therapy and use of light and from the sun is used so much in supporting people's health. Not just eye health, but health in general. Mm-hmm. So it goes like, drinking water is really a great idea. Drinking better quality water is probably better than just tap water. At the same time, it's a relative spectrum. So if possible, go out in the sun, particularly morning and nighttime when the sun's lower. You're not stretching your head back up, number one, and it's not quite as intense. And I used to have, if I was 10 minutes, even with this light that I have here, I would have had a migraine when I was like 20, 30 years of age. And I can remember living with migraines because of the light. Having done this, I took my children one day skiing, and I don't own a pair of sunglasses. So I was prepared to go and buy sunglasses for my children, and for myself. I got there and I literally found it wasn't glary for me, because I'd increased my tolerance to sun. So, I'm a believer that if you need glasses, whether it's sunglasses or eyeglasses for anything, wear them if you need them. When you don't need to wear them, don't wear them. So in terms of the sun, yes, it's preferable if we can go out in the sun and do it. If not, if it's raining all day and you have a lamp, then that's the next thing to go to. If you don't even have that, you can even close your eyes and visualize looking at the sun. Will still have some benefit.
Okay, very cool, very cool. So as we, I'm loving this conversation, and again, that's what I said. Once we met, I had to get you on. But as we come towards the close of this interview here, again, Barry, I would love to know, outside of all the eye techniques that we've already discussed, what do you personally do to reverse the effects of aging?
Look, what I do is really look at what's going on within me. Like, that's the number one. And I use the techniques that I use with the muscle testing of clearing, I actually use for myself. I think it's just a wonderful process of looking at cleaning up all the stresses in my life and continuing that process of continuing cleansing and clearing those stresses so that I can be the absolutely best person that I can be. And when I'm in that way, my health improves, my vitality improves, my quality of life improves. And I'm a big believer of constantly improving myself. Like, you could probably recognize I'm always like, what's next and what's next?
Yeah, sure.
And I saw a great video once of Louise Hay getting worked on at 86 years of age, just before she died. and had this young guy working with her, and she was so nervous. She was he was like, "Oh, but you're Louise Hayes, like you're this famous person who talks about affirmations and things like that." And she said, "Look, I still have a pulse, don't I? Like I'm still breathing. Like there's still stuff to clear." And she was really open and clearing some of her issues at 86. And I thought that was just a great example to show all of us that we're never finished on this journey.
No,
This is a lifelong journey, and I think we continue it even past this life. So we don't actually have an end date.
Absolutely. And like for those who know me and have gotten to know me, knew me prior to or got to know me during the summit, I plan to be a centenarian. So I'm not stopping at 86 or whatever. Like I'm going to go right to my end days and always trying to strive to be better. So I love that philosophy that you have there, Barry. We certainly share that as well. Also, I wanted to mention for the audience that you have a gift for everyone, and it's clear blocks to 2020 vision. And again, everyone's good. The link will be right underneath the interview here, and you can grab that from Barry. But Barry, could you just give us a quick description of what that gift is?
Yeah, this is a great place for people to start in terms of what else is there other than those two exercises I gave you. And so what I do is I look at 10 statements, and one of them, for example, is, "It is safe for me to see." Such a simple statement, and yet there's so much in life where people say it's not safe to see. It's not, I've been in situations, it's not safe, and that's what goes in. So what I do with this, it's only a 1-hour recording, so it's not a very long one, and yet it's a really powerful one in clearing, not just identifying, but clearing 10 blocks to what's stopping us from seeing. And so it's one I recommend for everyone to have a look at, and we're gifting it to everyone here today. It's normally a $97 program. We're going to gift it to everyone because I want everyone to get started on this journey of self-discovery through our eyes.
I love it, Barry. I love it. Everyone grab it. I'm going to grab it. You definitely grab it. Again, the link is right below this interview here. And I just also want to mention to everyone, remember, if you want to access to not only this interview, but all the other amazing speakers, go forward for a lifetime. Don't forget to upgrade to the VIP. So it's just $97 now during the summit, and then the price will go up after the summit is over. And also don't forget to check out all the sponsors who are supporting the summit to enable this to be a free event for everyone. So any last words of wisdom or golden nugget, Barry, that you'd like to share with the audience?
Look, I think to enjoy what we see, to absolutely have thrill in life of everything that we see, and to take care of our eyes. Like our eyes, are one of those things where most people are, the three top things people are scared of. One is dying, one is speaking, public speaking is the second one, and the third one is our physical eyesight. And it doesn't take much to look after our eyes by spending just a few minutes every day. And that's what I'm going to encourage people to do.
Awesome. And I second that sentiment, Barry. So again, thank you, Barry, for being on the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. And for all of you, we'll see you on the next interview. Till then.
Thanks, Deepak.
This episode is brought to you by Optimizers. I love their product, Gluten Guardian. Now, I'm not celiac, but I am sensitive to gluten, and sometimes you just can't avoid it. You're out. Sometimes you just want to celebrate that birthday cake that your kids made, what have you. So I'll pop a couple of these pills just to help mitigate the inflammation and help break down the gluten that I may ingest sometimes. So Gluten Guardian also works with dairy as well. I take these occasionally, and click the link and you can save 10% off at least, if not more. Cheers.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company